My name is Emma Carter, and 3 weeks ago I discovered that my parents had stolen $187,000 from me. Not from a bank robbery. Not from some stranger on the internet. From my own college fund. A fund that my grandmother started when I was 5 years old. A fund everyone in our family knew was meant for my future. But when I opened the account statement this summer before college, the balance said $0. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Some kind of banking error. Maybe the account number was wrong. Maybe the website was glitching. So I called my mom. There was a long silence on the phone. Then she said something that changed the way I looked at my family forever. Your brother needed it more. Needed it more. Apparently, my parents had taken every single dollar from my college fund and used it to buy my older brother a brand new truck and help him start a business. Just like that. 14 years of savings. Birthday checks from my grandma. Graduation gifts. Every dollar meant for my education. Gone. And according to my parents, I was supposed to just accept it. Because in their words, you're responsible. You'll figure it out. What they didn't know, what they never expected, was that my grandmother found out. And when she did, she made one phone call that turned my parents' perfect reputation into the biggest scandal our town had ever seen. If you had met my family from the outside, you probably would have thought we were perfect. We lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone knew each other. My dad coached Little League, my mom volunteered at the local church, and my older brother Jason was the kind of guy adults loved to brag about. But inside our house, things had always been different. Jason was the golden child. I was the responsible one. Growing up, the rules for us were never the same. When Jason forgot his homework, my parents laughed and called him a free spirit. When I brought home a 95 instead of a 100, my dad would ask why I hadn't tried harder. Jason got rewarded for existing. I got praised for surviving. When Jason turned 16, my parents surprised him with a brand new car sitting in the driveway with a giant red bow on top. They filmed his reaction and posted it on Facebook like it was some heartwarming family moment. When I turned 16 a year later, I got a card. Inside was a note that said, "You're mature enough to earn your own things." And honestly, I believed them. I worked part-time all through high school. Babysitting, tutoring, working weekends at a local coffee shop. Not because I wanted extra spending money, but because I knew college was coming. Or at least I thought I did. Because every time someone asked about my plans after graduation, my mom would proudly say the same thing. Emma's college is already taken care of. She'd smile and explain how my grandmother had started a college fund for me years ago. Everyone in town knew about it. My grandma Evelyn had always believed education was the most valuable gift someone could give. When I was little, she used to joke that my college fund would follow me everywhere. "Your future is protected," she told me once when I was 12. "No one can take that away from you." Back then, I believed her. But the favoritism in our house only got worse as we got older. Jason struggled through community college for one semester before dropping out. He said school wasn't his thing. My parents didn't push him. They just nodded and told everyone he was an entrepreneur. He bounced between jobs for years. Meanwhile, I studied harder than anyone I knew. I stayed up late writing essays, took advanced placement classes, and spent weekends preparing scholarship applications. Because even though my parents said my college was paid for, I didn't want to waste the opportunity. The night I got accepted into my dream university, I cried so hard I could barely breathe. My parents hugged me and told everyone how proud they were. But looking back now, I realized something chilling. While I was celebrating the future I thought I had, my parents were already planning how to take it away. And the worst part? They didn't even try to hide who they believed deserved that money more. It was never going to be me. 2 weeks after my high school graduation, something happened that completely shattered the reality I thought I was living in. It was a bright Saturday afternoon, and my parents told me they had a small surprise planned for Jason. At first, I didn't think much about it. My brother had always been the center of attention in our family, so surprises for him weren't exactly unusual. But when we pulled into the dealership parking lot, my stomach started to feel strange. Jason's eyes lit up the moment he saw it. A brand new black pickup truck sitting right in the center of the lot with a giant red ribbon stretched across the hood. The sales manager walked over smiling while my parents stood beside Jason like proud sponsors. "Congratulations," the man said. "Your parents already handled the payment." Jason looked stunned for about 2 seconds before breaking into the biggest grin I had ever seen. He hugged my dad. My mom pulled out her phone and started recording like it was some viral family moment. Everyone was laughing. Everyone except me. Because something about the situation didn't make sense. Jason didn't have a job. He didn't have savings. And my parents weren't exactly the kind of people who could casually drop tens of thousands of dollars on a truck. Later that evening, curiosity got the better of me. I logged into the online banking account connected to my college fund, the one my grandmother had started for me when I was 5. The page loaded slowly. But when the balance finally appeared on the screen, my heart stopped. $0. At first, I thought it had to be a mistake. Until I scrolled down and saw the transaction history. A single withdrawal. $187,000. Transferred just 3 days earlier. The account holder listed on the approval? My father. And suddenly, that brand new truck in the driveway made perfect sense. For the rest of that night, I sat on my bed staring at my laptop screen. The number didn't change. $0. It felt like someone had erased my entire future with a single click. Downstairs, I could hear my parents and Jason celebrating. Jason was showing off the truck keys like a trophy, talking about road trips and upgrades. My parents were laughing. Like nothing had happened. Like they hadn't just taken $187,000 that had been meant for my education. I wanted to go downstairs and confront them right then. But something stopped me. Instead, I picked up my phone and called the one person who had started that fund in the first place. My grandmother. She answered on the 3rd ring. "Sweetheart, is everything okay?" Her voice was warm and calm, the same way it had always been. For a moment, I couldn't speak. Then the words finally came out. "Grandma, the college fund is gone." There was silence on the other end of the line. Not confusion. Not disbelief. Just silence. "What do you mean, gone?" she asked slowly. I explained everything. The truck. The dealership. The withdrawal. When I finished, my hands were shaking. For a few seconds, she didn't say anything. Then I heard something in her voice that I had never heard before. Anger. Real anger. "I see," she said quietly. That was all. No yelling. No panic. Just those 2 words. Then she said something that made my heart race. "Thank you for telling me, Emma." Her tone had completely changed. Cold. Calm. Determined. "Don't worry about this anymore," she continued. "I'm going to make a few phone calls." I didn't know who she meant, or what she was planning. But the next morning, my parents were about to learn something about my grandmother that the entire town already knew. When Evelyn Carter made a call, things moved very quickly. The next morning started like any other day. My parents were in the kitchen drinking coffee. Jason was outside in the driveway, wiping down his brand new truck like it was the greatest achievement of his life. For a moment, everything looked normal. Then my mom's phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. "Why is the school board calling me?" she muttered before answering. My mother had worked at the town's administrative office for years. She was known in our community as someone who helped organize scholarship programs for local students, which made what happened next almost unbelievable. Her expression slowly changed as she listened. Confusion turned into panic. "What do you mean, meeting?" she asked. Across the table, my father's phone started ringing too. Then it rang again. And again. 3 different calls within 5 minutes. By the time he finally answered one, his voice had become tense. "Yes, I understand," he said stiffly. "But I don't see why this concerns." He stopped talking. Because whatever the person on the other end said clearly did concern him. A lot. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed with a text message from my grandmother. "Turn on the local news." My heart started pounding. I opened the news app on my phone and nearly dropped it. Right there on the screen was a headline about the Carter Family Scholarship Fund, a fund my grandmother had donated to the town years earlier to support students who couldn't afford college. And apparently, she had just called an emergency board meeting. In that meeting, she had explained exactly what my parents had done. How they secretly emptied their daughter's college fund. How they used it to buy their son a truck. How they justified it as family decision. The story spread through town faster than wildfire. Neighbors were calling. Teachers were talking. Parents were whispering in grocery stores and church parking lots. My parents had spent years building a reputation as respected members of the community. But now, that reputation was collapsing in real time. And the worst part for them? My grandmother wasn't finished yet. By noon, the atmosphere in our house had completely changed. The celebration from the night before was gone. Jason's truck still sat proudly in the driveway, shining in the sunlight, but inside the house, nobody was smiling anymore. My parents were pacing through the living room, whispering to each other in urgent voices. My father kept checking his phone. My mother looked like she was about to cry. Then the doorbell rang. The sound echoed through the house like a gunshot. My father opened the door and froze. Standing on the porch was a tall woman in a dark suit holding a leather folder. "Good afternoon," she said calmly. "My name is Margaret Lawson. I represent Evelyn Carter, my grandmother." My father's face turned pale. The lawyer stepped inside without waiting for an invitation and placed the folder on the kitchen table. Jason walked in from the driveway, confused. "What's going on?" The lawyer opened the folder slowly. Inside were several printed documents. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter," she said evenly, "I'm here regarding the college trust account established for Emma Carter in 2009. My mother's voice shook. "That was a family account." The lawyer didn't even blink. "No," she replied. "It was not." She slid the first document across the table. This account was legally structured as a restricted educational trust. The funds were designated exclusively for Emma Carter's college tuition. Jason frowned. "So what?" The lawyer looked directly at my parents. "What that means," she continued, "is that withdrawing the funds for any other purpose constitutes misappropriation of trust assets." My father's voice rose instantly. "That's ridiculous. We're her parents." The lawyer calmly pushed another document forward. "And according to these records, you withdrew $187,000 from that trust last month." The room went completely silent. Then she delivered the sentence that changed everything. "My client has already filed notice with the county court." She paused. "If the funds are not returned immediately, this case will proceed as financial fraud involving a protected trust account." Jason slowly looked out the window at his brand new truck. For the first time since he bought it, he didn't look proud. He looked terrified. The room went completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. My father stared at the papers on the table like they had suddenly turned into a foreign language. My mother's hands began shaking. "Fraud," she whispered. The lawyer didn't raise her voice. She didn't threaten. She simply repeated the facts. Yes, because the money was placed in a restricted educational trust, removing it for personal use is legally considered misuse of protected funds. Jason finally spoke. His voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. "Wait, does that mean the truck?" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Everyone in the room understood. My father suddenly exploded. "This is insane," he shouted. "She's our daughter. It was family money." But the lawyer calmly closed the folder. "No," she said. "It was her future." My mother sank into a chair. "You told her," she asked me in disbelief. "I didn't have to," I replied quietly. "Grandma figured it out." Jason looked out the window again. The truck that had looked like a trophy just hours earlier now looked like evidence. Finally, my father's voice dropped to a nervous whisper. "What happens now?" The lawyer stood up and adjusted her jacket. "You have two options," she said. "Return the full $187,000 immediately, or explain your actions to a judge." Then she walked toward the door. But before leaving, she stopped and turned back. "One more thing." She looked directly at my parents. "My client also asked me to remind you of something." The room held its breath. The lawyer smiled slightly. "Families should invest in all their children." Then she walked out. And just like that, the house that had always chosen my brother was finally forced to face the truth. That night, the truck was gone. Jason didn't say a word as the dealership's tow driver loaded it onto a trailer. The same truck that had once made him the center of attention now disappeared down the street like a quiet apology. Within a week, the full $187,000 was returned to my college account. No speeches. No excuses. Just silence. Grandma called me later that evening. Her voice was calm. "I didn't do this for revenge," she said. "I did it for fairness." Then she added the words I'll never forget. "In this family, your future matters too." And for the first time in my life, someone had finally proved it.